Emeka was a wheelbarrow pusher in the town market, well known not for his strength but for something stranger. Every day, as he pushed loads of goods across the market, two babies dangled upside down on his back. Their legs faced the sky, their heads hung down. Tied tightly in red cloth, they bounced gently as he worked. People pointed. Some laughed. Others whispered, "He's lost his mind. Maybe he's doing ritual. What kind of father carries children like that?" But Emeka didn't answer. He just pushed his wheelbarrow through the crowd. Bags of beans, buckets of palm oil, crates of pepper, all balanced on his head or arms, while the babies swung upside down like they lived there. He didn't smile. He didn't talk. He just worked. And every time the twins made a small sound, Emeka would pause, turn slightly, and whisper to them, "Shh, Papa is here. You will live." His steps were heavy, like he carried more than just goods. His eyes were tired, like a man who had not slept in years. But his hands, those hands, never shook. They held the wheelbarrow firm, and they held his babies tighter. This is because the twin babies didn't have a mother. She didn't die though. She left. She left Emeka in sufferness with the two babies, and to keep them both alive, he had to back them upside down. But why is that? Nobody understood why he did it. Nobody dared ask. They only watched, and they talked. But if they had known, if they had seen the pain buried deep behind his silence, they would not laugh. They would kneel and cry. Long ago, before Emeka became the man with upside-down babies, he had a wife. Her name was Neka. Neka was beautiful, beautiful like Harmattan moon. Her skin was smooth like fresh milk. Her nails were always painted, red today, gold tomorrow. Her eyelashes long like broomsticks. When she walked, even the wind followed her. She didn't like to cook. She didn't like to sweep. She didn't like to wash, but she loved photos. She would borrow phones from her friends, find good light, tilt her head, and smile like a queen. Click, 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 then post and wait for praises. She liked soft things. Soft bed, soft hands, soft food, soft life. But Emeka loved her. He loved her like dry land loves rain. He would leave the market with no money in his pocket, but still bring her meat. He would sleep on the floor just so she could sleep on the only mattress. One time, he used all his savings to buy her a necklace with beads as red as palm fruit. "For you," he said, placing it around her neck, "because you shine brighter than the sun." Neka smiled, but she didn't hug him. She didn't kiss him. She just snapped another picture with the beads and said, "This one is fine." Emeka didn't mind. He only wanted to see her happy, even if it meant drinking only water, so she could have rice with meat, even if it meant walking in the sun while she stayed at home painting her nails, even if it meant being her shadow. He pushed, he worked, he gave. Because to him, love was doing everything, even if the other person did nothing. And for a while, the house was sweet. The walls still echoed with laughter. Emeka would come home with tired feet, but his heart would dance when he saw her face. But sweetness does not last when sorrow begins to knock. And soon, it knocked hard. It started with their first child. The first time Emeka heard the cry of a baby in his own house, he danced. It was a boy. His legs kicked strong. His cry was loud like market bell. Emeka named him Chibuike. God is strength. He held the child close and whispered, "My own, my light." That night, Emeka couldn't sleep. He just watched the baby breathe. In the morning, he bought rice and goat meat for Nika. He told everyone at the market, "My son is here." Even the old women clapped. But joy is like harmattan wind. It doesn't stay long. On the second night, Chibuike coughed. Once, then twice, then silence. Before the cock crowed, the child was cold. Neka screamed. Emeka held her. He didn't know what to say. They buried the boy quietly. No drumming, no dancing, just tears. "It happens," people said. "Try again." So they did. The next one was a girl. Small, soft, with eyes like stars. They named her Adaora, first daughter. Her little fingers wrapped around Emeka's thumb like she never wanted to let go. He built a swing for her with old ropes. He sang to her every evening. He even planted a flower outside and said, "This is her flower." But one morning, Neka tapped Emeka with shaking hands. "She's not moving," she whispered. Adaura was gone. No cough this time. No sound, just silence. They buried her beside her brother. 2 graves, one beside the other. Still, people said, "It's village attack. Pray more. Try again." They tried. Again and again. Baby number 3, gone. Baby number 4, gone. Baby number 5, gone. By the 6th one, Emeka didn't cry again. He didn't paint rooms. He didn't buy toys. He just waited. He watched the child's chest rise and fall. And one day, stop. 6 babies, 6 burials. Their house, once full of dreams, became full of shadows. The walls no longer laughed. The windows no longer smiled. Only tears lived there now. Tears in Emeka's eyes. Tears in Neka's pillow. Tears that flowed like river after heavy rain. And still, no one had answers. His wife, Neka, started to break from the inside. She grew bitter, angry, silent. She blamed herself. She blamed him. She blamed the wind. "Why me?" she screamed one night. "What have I done?" Emeka didn't shout back. He just sat near the door, quiet like a stone in the rain. His face had no smile. His eyes had no sleep. But he still tried. They went to healers. A man with cowries told them to bring turtle eggs and kola nuts. They went to a woman with red chalk who told them to boil leaves and wash their heads. They met a pastor who shouted in tongues and poured oil on their foreheads. They drank bitter herbs. They fasted till their bones cried. But still, every baby still went cold. Neka began to hate the smell of children. She threw away the tiny clothes. She broke the swing Emeka had built for Adaora. She stopped calling him by name. She just hissed and turned her back. The house grew quiet, too quiet. No more humming, no more pots clanging, no more footsteps dancing on the floor. Even the rats stopped playing. Hope, once shining like morning sun, now looked like the tail of a candle. And slowly, quietly, it went out. One hot afternoon when the sun sat like fire on people's heads, a crowd gathered in the town square. A woman had come, not just any woman. She wore white from head to toe. Her feet were bare. Her eyes were deep. And when she walked, even the wind stepped aside. She was a prophetess. People came from all corners to hear her speak. "God is speaking today," she said, her voice calm but heavy. "Some of you are carrying pain that is not yours." Emeka stood at the back, arms folded, eyes low. He didn't plan to come, but something inside him pushed him there. When the crowd began to leave, the woman looked around. Then her eyes found Emeka. She walked straight to him. "You," she said, pointing. "Come." Emeka stepped forward slowly. The woman didn't ask questions. She didn't greet. She just held his hand, looked at his face, and spoke like she already knew his story. "Your house is not cursed," she said. Emeka's heart jumped. It's not? He asked softly. No, she replied. But the spirits are watching. They see your babies. They see the joy coming. So they snatch it before it grows. The spirits have marked your children. Emeka blinked. His mouth opened, but no words came. The prophetess leaned closer. If you want your next child to live, do something foolish in the eyes of man, just to fool the spirit as well. Fool them? Emeka asked. How? When your next child is born, she said, back the baby upside down. Wrap them with red cloth. Head down, legs up. Every day, until they grow teeth, and even after, until they turn 10. The wind blew. A market bell rang in the distance. The prophetess stepped back. Then, without another word, she walked away. Her white gown moved like cloud behind her. Emeka stood still. The market moved around him, but inside him, something had shifted. Hope had knocked again, and this time, he planned to open the door. Not long after the prophetess left, Neka's stomach began to rise again. She was pregnant. The news spread like smoke. Some people smiled. Some people shook their heads. But Emeka, he prayed. Day and night, he prayed. When the baby came, it was a boy. His eyes were sharp, his hands strong, his voice loud. The nurses said, "This one will live long." Emeka smiled, but his smile was quiet. He had heard those words before. At home, he remembered the prophetess. He sat beside Neka on the bed and said, "Let's back him upside down," just like the woman said. Red cloth, legs up, head down. Neka looked at him, eyes wide. Then she burst out laughing. Me? A fine woman like me? Back my baby like I'm mad? In this town? Never, Emeka begged. Please, let's just try. But Neka snapped her fingers and hissed. You want them to laugh at me, call me crazy, carry your madness alone. Then she stood up. I am a role model in this town, she said. I can't be seen acting like a mad woman because of one stranger's words. Who even knows if the prophetess is a liar? And just like that, she backed the baby the normal way. Proud, tall, like a queen in the market. Emeka didn't fight. He just watched the child every night, listened to his breathing, held his tiny feet. 2 weeks passed, then one night, a cough, then again, then silence. By morning, the baby was cold. No crying, no moving, just still. Emeka fell to the floor. He held the lifeless body close to his chest and said, You didn't even try. Neka sat on the bed, legs folded, her face hard, her eyes empty. She didn't cry, she didn't scream. She just stared at the wall like nothing happened. That day, Emeka stopped talking to the world. But deep inside him, he whispered to the prophetess, I believe you now. Time passed, and the rain started one midnight. Heavy, loud, like heaven was beating drums on rooftops. And before the cock could stretch its neck, the cries of newborns filled the small room. Not one cry, two, twins, two baby girls, skin fresh like morning yam, their cries strong like trumpet, their eyes blinking like stars in the dark. Emeka stood beside the bed, his chest rising fast. He looked at them and said, Ama, I'm Betty. Nika smiled a little at first, but when Emeka brought out the red cloth, her smile died. You want to start again? She asked. Emeka held the cloth tight. Please, let's try it this time. I said no, she snapped. I won't walk around this town with children tied like spirits. Never. Emeka looked at the babies, then looked at Neka, and he kept quiet. But he didn't forget. 3 days passed. Then one early morning, when the sky was still yawning, Emeka woke before the sun. He tiptoed across the room. The girls were sleeping, peaceful like water in a clay pot. He touched them gently, wrapped armor in red cloth, head down, legs up. Then he did the same for Betty. He tied them tight, firm safe, and backed them both. When Neka woke and saw them dangling upside down on his back, she screamed, "You'll break their necks!" Emeka turned and said quietly, "They will live." "You're mad!" "Maybe, but I will be mad if that's what will keep them breathing." He walked out with the babies bouncing on his back, upside down, just like the prophetess said. People stared, people laughed, but Emeka didn't look back, because this time he was not waiting for death. He was walking toward life. Night came and Emeka returned back home. But when Neka saw her twin daughters still tied upside down with red cloth on Emeka's back, her voice cracked the roof again. "You'll kill them," she screamed. "You want to bury two more?" But Emeka didn't shout. He just stood there, calm like still water. Then he said, "If madness will save them, then I will be mad." Neka turned her face away. "You're not normal." From that day, she refused to touch the babies. She didn't bathe them. She didn't feed them. She didn't even look at them. She stopped cooking, stopped cleaning. She just stayed in one corner of the room like a stone. Every night, when the town slept and the crickets sang, Neka cried into her wrapper. Quiet, bitter tears. Tears that only the wall could hear. She muttered to herself, "I am tired. I am tired of watching graves grow." Days passed. Weeks crawled. Emeka kept backing the girls, morning till night. He sang to them. He rocked them. He whispered, "You will live, my Amma. You will live, my Betty." Then, one morning, the room was too quiet. The bed was empty. Her wrapper was gone. Her slippers were not at the door. Emeka looked around. No noise, no plate movement, no voice. Neka was gone. No letter, no word. Just silence. He stood at the doorway, the twins tied to his back. The sun was rising. Our neighbors whispered. She couldn't take it anymore. Others said he chased her with his madness. But word soon spread. Neka had married a wealthy man in another town, a man with cars, lands, and servants. She posed in photos beside swimming pools and gold curtains. Left alone, every morning, before the market woke fully, Emeka was already there. His shirt still had holes, his slippers still tired, but what made people stop and stare were the babies. 2 of them, tied upside down on his back, legs up, heads down, wrapped in thick red cloth. "Emeka is mad," they said. Some laughed with their teeth wide open. Some shook their heads and hissed. Some whispered, "Maybe it's a ritual." One woman even threw groundnuts at him. "Go and bury them already," she shouted. "They will soon die." But Emeka didn't look at her. He didn't stop pushing his wheelbarrow. He didn't stop singing to the girls. He fed them pap in the morning, carried them on his back through the afternoon, and at night he held them on his chest and said, "Sleep, my daughters. Papa is here. I will carry you to life." The sun came and went. The moon rose and fell. Weeks passed, then months. But the girls? They didn't cough. They didn't cry too long. They didn't go cold. They stayed alive. Their eyes bright like lanterns. Their skin fresh like new yam. Their laughter small, but sweet like sugar water. People watched from their stalls. They said. "They're still breathing." "Still? Since when?" But Emeka said nothing. He just tied the red cloth tighter and kept walking, because while the town whispered behind him, His babies were smiling behind him too. Far away from the market noise and wheelbarrows, Neka now lived in a big house with her new wealthy husband. There were cars in the compound, curtains that touched the floor, chairs soft like puff puff. She wore gold on her fingers. Her photos were now taken with real phones, not borrowed ones. But inside her chest, there was a hole. An even bigger problem. It's now 2 years of marriage. Her beauty remained, but her womb stayed silent. No pregnancy, not to talk of even having a baby. Her new husband began to change. At first, he waited. Then he complained. Then he shouted. "Why can't you give me a child?" he asked, voice rising like boiling pot. Neka looked down. She had no answer. Doctors said she was fine. Prophets said she was cursed. The house grew cold, even though it had air conditioners. One evening, Neka stood by the window, staring into the sky, and all she could see was Emeka. She remembered his face, his silence, the red cloth, the babies, Amma and Betty. She blinked. Her throat tightened. "What if they're still alive?" she whispered. The next morning, she packed her bags. She folded wrappers, tied her scarf. She didn't tell her husband. She didn't greet the gate man. She just left. Back to the place where red cloths bounced and people whispered. Back to where she left her children. Back to Emeka. Neka didn't come alone. She came with her uncles, her aunties, even a few town elders. They all sat under the big almond tree, the one near the broken well. They crossed their legs, cleared their throats, and waited for Emeka. He came slowly, his wrapper dusty, his eyes quiet. Betty was tied to his back, legs in the sky, head to the ground. The elders spoke first. "Emeka, she is their mother. She only wants one. She gave birth to them. She has the right." Emeka looked at them, then looked at Neka. She sat with folded arms, her voice soft. "Please," she said, "I want just one. I am still their mother." The town people gathered. Some nodded, some whispered, but no one told the truth. No one said, "The twins are alive because of the red cloth." No one said, "It was her pride that walked out, not her pain." Instead, they said, "Better give them to her before they die like the others, because this is not a way to back a baby." Emeka's heart burned like firewood. He wanted to shout. He wanted to say, "Where were you when they cried at night?" But he didn't. So, after long deliberation and pressure from relatives, Emeka accepted. He untied Amma and handed her over, keeping Betty to himself. She blinked and smiled, not knowing what was happening. He carried her in his arms, held her close like palm wine in a calabash, then gave her to Neka. His eyes were wet. "She is yours," he said quietly, "but take care of her." Neka stood, took the child, and walked away. Betty stayed, still tied, still upside down. And Emeka? He turned and walked back into his silence. Because sometimes love means letting go, even when your hands are still shaking. Betty stayed. She stayed in the tiny house with the cracked floor. She stayed with her father, who smelled like dust and pepper. She stayed with the red cloth, and she grew. She laughed when the wind tickled her cheeks. She danced in the rain, arms open wide. She ran with bare feet across the compound, faster than the boys. Every evening, before the sun could say goodbye, Emeka would tie her again. Upside down, legs to the sky, head to the ground. And Betty, she never cried. She giggled when he tied the knot. She played with his beard as he walked through the market. She whispered, "Papa, fly me like bird." People watched from their stalls. They no longer laughed. They no longer pointed. They just watched and wondered. Years rolled like tires on sand. Betty turned 6, then 7, then 8. She started school. Her books were old. Her sandals had holes, but her words were sharp like new blade. She wrote poems that made her teacher blink. She answered questions before the bell rang. She read stories as smooth as stream water. Emeka would sit at the back of the classroom, watching through the window. He never entered. He just smiled and whispered, "My daughter." Then she turned 9, and then 10. On her 10th birthday, Betty ran to Emeka and hugged him tight. He looked at her. He looked at the red cloth. Then, slowly, carefully, he untied it for the last time. He folded it with both hands, pressed it to his chest, then looked at Betty and smiled. She ran into the open field, arms wide like eagle wings. And Emeka shouted, louder than thunder, stronger than drums. "She made it! My daughter made it!" The sound flew through the town. It touched rooftops. It woke sleeping elders. And this time, nobody laughed. They listened. Because a girl once tied upside down now stood tall, free, and full of light. That morning, the town was no longer quiet. People came from all corners. Market women, hunters, tailors, even strangers. They came to see the girl Emeka carried upside down for 10 years. Betty stood in the middle of the field, her eyes bright like fresh morning, her skin glowing like palm oil in sunlight. She smiled, she waved, she bowed, strong, alive, beautiful. The same girl they once mocked, the same cloth they once called foolish. Now, the elders came and knelt. One of them touched Emeka's feet and said, "Forgive us." Another one whispered, "We laughed, we mocked, but now we see." A woman from the back burst into tears. She wept loudly, holding her head, crying like someone who lost her way. Emeka didn't speak. He only looked at Betty and smiled. The news moved faster than harmattan wind. It flew past the hills, past the big church, past the rich man's compound. And it reached Neka. She was sitting near a glass table when she heard it. Her hand dropped the cup. Her breath slowed. "Betty is alive?" she asked the messenger. "Yes," he replied. "She turned 10, strong like lion, brain like fire. The cloth worked." Neka's knees shook. She held the wall. She remembered Amma, how she died just 1 month after taking her away from Emeka, how she had backed her the normal way, how one fever came and Amma never breathed again. Amma had died just 1 month after she left Emeka. Neka screamed. She fell to the floor, held her stomach, cried louder than thunder. Then she stood up, wiped her face, packed her bag, and ran. Back to the town, back to the man she left, back to the daughter she abandoned. But this time, her hands were not filled with gold. They were filled with shame. Neka stood in front of Emeka's old house. The sun was low. The ground was quiet. But inside her chest, thunder beat. She raised her hand, knocked, once, twice, then again. The door opened slowly. Emeka stood there, his beard now grey, Betty's school bag hanging by the corner. Neka dropped to her knees. "Please," she whispered. "I'm sorry." Her voice cracked like dry leaf. Tears ran down her face like heavy rain on rusty zinc. "I didn't believe," she said. "I thought it was madness. I thought you were wrong." She held his feet. "I lost Amma," she wept. "She died. The fever came. I didn't know what to do. I didn't listen." She wiped her face, looked up and said, "I want to be a mother again. I want to be with Betty. Emeka looked down at her, quiet, long. Then he spoke. You left when she needed you, he said softly. Now she doesn't. Neka's lips trembled. Please, let me try again. But Emeka shook his head. Some absences, he said, write themselves in stone. Neka cried harder, her voice low, her hands trembling. But Emeka stepped back. He looked at her one last time, then closed the door. No anger, no noise, just silence. And behind the door, a father stood and walked away. Because sometimes the heart remembers who stayed and who didn't. Time passed, and one evening, the sky wore a deep gray. Birds flew low. The wind moved slow. Inside the small room, Emeka sat alone on his bamboo chair. His hair was white like ash. His hands rested on his knees. And in the corner was the red cloth. Folded, neat, silent. Betty was no longer a child. She had become a light in the town. She built schools where children sat on real chairs, not broken stones. She gave uniforms to those with torn shirts. She spoke in big places with big people. She told her story without shame. She helped the poor, fed the hungry, held crying mothers. People called her Ada Ugo, daughter of honor. But in her father's eyes, she was still his baby girl. Emeka looked at the red cloth. His fingers touched it gently, like touching the wing of a butterfly. He smiled, closed his eyes, and whispered, "Thank you." The room was quiet, but not empty. The silence was soft, not heavy like before. Outside, the sky grew dark, but inside Emeka's heart, there was no pain, no regret, no tears, just peace. Because some love doesn't need flowers, doesn't need loud songs. Some love just ties itself quietly, like a red cloth on a father's back, and carries life, even when the world says it's upside down. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, please like the video, comment what you learned from the tale, share with friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more African folk tales just like this one. Thank you.